Hello and welcome to a Warframe video. In this video I wanted to talk about Volt. And Volt is one of my favorite frames. Now he is the frame that I started with, literally the very first frame that I picked when I started Warframe. And I was always I was always fond of his speed, of his ability to use speed, and of his crowd controlling capabilities. And he actually is he's actually a very capable Warframe. Currently he's even more capable than um, both Mag as well as Excalibur, both in damage thanks to his capacitance builds and using his fourth essentially, both for his shield for dealing with Eidolons and hunting terrorists essentially. So almost every squad has a Volt with a shield build nowadays. And of course, his speed by itself is very fun to use. Just going around pretending that you are like either I don't know, like you're the Flash or something, like super fast and everything. And of course, everybody has their own version of of his speed. Now, most people don't really use his speed build, mostly because it sacrifices a lot of survivability, and obviously on higher difficulties it can be a bit of a pain. Um, and also for the fact that when you are really moving at really high speed, you pretty much bang yourself onto the walls, and so unless you actually have some really good reflexes and know how to play Volt like very well, you're basically gonna be spending most of the time just banging on the surfaces or jumping off the map because you're just too fast. Um, the way I see it, however, is that a speed build should always be in your in your loadout when it comes to Vault, because the way Warframe is going is the 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 future of Warframe is now open worlds. It's literally making every planet and giving every planet an open world aspect. And considering that the whole thing of doing bounties and all of that, like we have learned in Cetus, is basically you basically moving from place to place from the maps, and just I don't know, doing something there and then going around. I think that Volt is actually a very good Warframe that actually deals a very good balance in doing bounties, because he moves from really fast from place to place. He has the crowd controlling capabilities if you're using a capacitance build like I'm doing right now, to crowd control enemies and also give me shield. So he has a very good survivability while dealing damage and crowd controlling at the same time. And if you actually if you encounter something like a I don't know, like an air support gunner or a turret or whatever, just drop your shield and you can actually use those shields just to defend and everything. And it's just enough to like it's just enough to give you like just enough time to like protect, but not enough to like take it. So Volt is actually a lot better in when it comes to like open world environments. Now, the way I use him, something that actually hasn't been used that often is his speed build, and I actually do like using Volt for his speed build. Now, just a side note, this is just my speed build. This is just what I choose to run with when I'm using speed. Obviously, we have armored agility, rush for those power for that movement speed. I have power for the extra speed. A little bit of course, prime flow is a must. Prime continuity in order to increase my duration. I'm using ogre message for that extra duration, and yeah, shocking speed, which shocks enemies. So that way you can basically stun enemies just by moving around them and also deal damage to them. Now, the way I use my Volt when I'm using speed, now obviously when you're talking about Volt with his speed, the best benefit is a melee weapon. Using a melee weapon with Volt in a speed loadout is like the best thing, one of the best combos. And if you even have like in your team, if your team includes a Valkyr with her war cry, or a Rhino with his um, roar, obviously. So literally just frames that you can get from the very get-go, from the very start of the mission, frames like these, and you can pretty much you have a team that can wreck everything just with melee. And considering that the strongest weapons that we have currently on Warframe are melee weapons, yeah, I think definitely a Volt speed build amplifying those melees is actually a very good build. So and very useful. The only thing slacking behind is survivability, but as long as you're using shocking speed and you basically touch your enemies, you will basically deal that shocking damage, which will stun them, allowing you to whack on them. And if you're using the infected Zoa, like I am, or even the Orthos Prime with like a maiming strike build, like there's so many like whether you're using Blood Rush or whether you're using Maiming Strike or whether you're using Condition Overload, the results are when you combine those with Volt, you gain well, things die very fast, and everybody's wondering what the hell just happened because that was just too fast. So I guess that depends on your build, but yeah, I want just I basically mod my Volt for just enough speed, and you see the thing is about shocking. I believe shocking speed adds a shock proc on enemies, so that's an extra like proc for that's an extra status effect for condition overload. I believe so because condition overload will basically the more statuses you deal, the more you add to the damage. So that actually I believe that works. But if you want some more survivability, the way I see it, if you want some extra survivability when you're using a speed vault, then I recommend using either Taxon, who will give you shields. Well, by using his ability, he will give you an extra overshield, which is useful. And of course, having him for, if you're using Meteorate to heal you and, what's it called? Shield regenerate something? I forget what it's called. Or just Guardian, just to regenerate your shield when necessary. That also increases your survivability. And of course, something that you can do is, if you want to sacrifice Shocking Speed Augment for Capacitance, you can, because Capacitance doesn't really. It's basically for his fourth, and at this current build, because you're using Power Strength, a little bit of efficiency and duration, um, Capacitance can actually deal a lot of damage because of that extra Power Strength. And well, his discharge, Volt's discharge, his fourth power, will be dealing a tons of damage just because of your speed build. And even though you don't have the range that you would normally have if you were doing a capacitance a capacitance build, well, you're fast, so you can just go straight at the middle of enemies and just nuke them. You can literally just nuke enemies with your capacitance and just build up that energy. Um, that extra overshield, and once you've built up all that extra overshield, just switch to milling and just go around milling things. As soon as you're down, as soon as your shield is down, just start doing capacitance again, and just vice versa. So even if you don't have I mean, the way I see it, I could easily sacrifice my armored agility for capacitance and have both shocking speed and a capacitance. So I have the shocking speed to stun my enemies and give that extra shock proc, that electricity proc, for my condition overload, um, to for enemies that I'm basically mailing at. And if I ever go at low health or if I'm taking too much damage, I can just use my capacitance to, you know, to get overshields. So I don't actually, that overshield does help you out, and it can actually regenerate you. And plus, it also crowd controls everyone. It also stuns everyone. So you get that extra survivability. I'm not really using that build right now. It was just something that I had on the top of my head. Right here, I'm just using raw speed build without sacrificing too much of everything. Just enough to be useful. It actually is a lot more beneficial to have a more balanced build for when it comes to speed, rather than just going full out speed. Because if you're going to play on your own, then you definitely want to have some, some balance in your abilities, a little balance there. Well, unless of course you're in a public group or something, in which case you don't really care because your teammates can take the aggro for you, so you can just go full speed. Um, the way I see it, when it comes to Volt's speed, I think it's the best way to use it is through exterminates, just to deal with them really really quickly with a group of people. Or if you want to like solo and exterminate really really super fast, you can just use that. And of course with the capacitance build, with the capacitance augment on top of Volt's shield, not shield, speed, will also give you that extra survivability and as well amplifying your character controlling capabilities. So there's just so many applications. Volt has literally so many applications, so many usefulness, so many uses for it. So I mean, I'm thinking that every frame has that ability. Every frame has the ability to be like to have many ways of being used. It's just that people are always using them for the maximum damage that they can do, or the maximum like survivability or so. Like it's always a one-way build that you completely ignore all the other builds that are also available. That could also be a thing. So I definitely recommend using Volt for. Well, I guess you can build him to suit your own needs, but I do like Volt in general as a Warframe, and even though his speed is one of my favorite um, to basically run with, all of his others are just as useful for any kind of situation. So this is my take on Volt. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found it useful. I hope you actually do add Volt into your arsenal. He's going to be very useful, especially in the upcoming updates and so forth. So yeah, I just wanted to share my Volt and my thoughts of Volt. So thank you for watching. Stay cool, and I'll see you later. Bye.